Today, I want to talk about something big, something that's stirring up a lot of conversation, especially among those of us who love Torah and long for Messiah's return. There's a temple being prepared in Jerusalem. And I'm not talking theory or symbolism. This is real. The blueprints have been drawn, the vessels have been crafted, garments for the priests are already made, even the red heifers are ready, and a lot of people, especially those watching Israel closely, are excited. But here's the question we need to stop and ask, not casually, but prayerfully. As believers in Yeshua, should we support this? Not just observe it or study it, but should we actually long for it, pray for it, endorse it, maybe even go visit it one day? Let's walk through this slowly, because I understand. It really can look like a beautiful fulfillment of prophecy, like we're watching the Bible unfold in real time. But the closer we look, the more we need to discern what's really going on. Now, Scripture does tell us that a temple will exist in the last days. Yeshua himself says, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, as spoken of by the prophet Daniel, flee. So yes, something called a holy place will be there. Something that appears sacred. Something many will believe is connected to YHWH. But here's something to notice. Yeshua didn't say, celebrate when it's rebuilt. He didn't say, offer sacrifices again. He said, flee. That's not encouragement. That's a warning. So let's really consider what kind of temple this will be. Is it a dwelling place for the Most High? Or is it something that looks holy on the surface, but is deceptive underneath? Let's step back and ask, what actually makes a temple holy in the eyes of YHWH? To be kadosh, to be set apart, it has to be commanded by YHWH, built according to his instructions, filled with his presence, and served by a priesthood he personally appoints. The temple that's being prepared right now, it doesn't meet any of those criteria. There's been no prophetic command, no word from Yahuwah saying, build my house now. This movement didn't start with a prophet, it started with a group of religious leaders. And those leaders, let's be honest, reject the Messiah. And that leads us to a deeper issue. Can Yahuwah truly dwell in a place where his Son is denied? 1 John chapter 2 verse 23 says, whoever denies the Son does not have the Father either. That's not just theology, that's reality. If they reject Yeshua, they're not welcoming the Father's presence. So no matter how stunning this temple may be, it will be empty, void of his Spirit, lacking the one thing that actually makes it holy. And this brings us to something even more serious. Let's talk about the priesthood. Right now, there are men in Israel being trained to serve in this temple. They claim to be Levites. Some even say they're descendants of Aaron. But the truth is, they can't prove it. You might be asking, like I did, wait, is there really no way to verify the priesthood anymore? Let's look at the history. In the 1st century, the Jewish historian Josephus, who was himself a priest, wrote about the detailed genealogical records that were kept in the temple. These records were essential for verifying who could serve as a priest. But after the Romans destroyed the temple in 70 AD, those public records were lost in the fire. Josephus puts it this way. We had the names of our high priests written from father to son in the public records. But those records were destroyed when the temple was burned. And even the Talmud agrees. In Kedushin 71a, the rabbis admit, since the day the temple was destroyed, the priesthood became only a presumption. Presumption. Not proven, not verified, just assumed. By tradition, surnames, and family stories. Maybe a name like Cohen or Levi. But no verifiable proof. And according to Torah, that's not enough. Ezra. Chapter 2 verse 62 tells us that when some men returned from Babylon claiming to be priests, they were disqualified because their names couldn't be found in the genealogical scrolls. These sought their record among those registered by genealogy, but they were not found, so they were disqualified from the priesthood. YHWH doesn't bend that rule. No proof, no service. And we've seen how seriously he takes this. Remember when King David was bringing the ark back to Jerusalem? Everyone was celebrating, singing, worshiping. But instead of carrying the ark the way YHWH commanded on the shoulders of the Levites, they put it on a cart. When the oxen stumbled, Uzzah reached out to steady the ark, and he died on the spot. Why? His intentions might have been good, but he touched what was holy in a way that violated Yahuwah's instruction. That moment in 2 Samuel 6 reminds us, Yahuwah's holiness is not casual, his instructions are not optional. So when he says the priesthood must be verifiable by genealogy, he means it. No amount of sincerity, zeal, or tradition can substitute for obedience. And yet today, we're watching men step into a role they cannot biblically prove, preparing to serve in a building that will not be filled with God's presence, offering sacrifices that, knowingly or not, deny the once-for-all sacrifice of Yeshua. So yes, A priesthood is forming. But it's not the priesthood Yeshua has chosen, and it's not one he will dwell among. Now maybe you're wondering, wait, didn't the disciples go to the temple after Yeshua's resurrection? Doesn't that mean it was still valid? Yes, they did go. But context matters. The temple at that time was still standing, still operating under the covenantal framework given at Sinai, and Yeshua himself had walked in those courtyards. The disciples weren't going there to offer sin sacrifices. They went to preach Messiah, to testify that the true offering had come, to honor the appointed times. Paul even completed a Nazirite vow, which involved sacrifices, but likely as dedication offerings, not sin atonement. The point is, they weren't relying on the blood of animals anymore. They were declaring that the true Lamb had already come. What's being built now, it's not a continuation of that. It's a revival of a system that no longer has a covering, a system being resurrected by those who reject the one it was meant to point to. And that's where the real danger lies. This third temple, the one being prepared right now, isn't just misguided. It becomes, according to Daniel 8, 11, and 12, the place where the abomination that lays waste will be set up. Yeshua says in Matthew chapter 24, "When you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, flee." This is not symbolic. It's literal. And when it happens, it will be a signal, not to celebrate, but to get out. So while many will be rejoicing and calling it a prophetic sign of God's restoration, the remnant will see it for what it truly is, a trap. But thankfully, this is not the only temple Scripture talks about. There is a temple that is holy, and it's not the one being prepared by men today. It's the one described in Ezekiel chapters 40 through 48. That temple is unlike anything we've seen before. It's massive, supernatural. A river flows from beneath it. The kavod, the glory of Yahuwah, returns from the east, and it's served by the sons of Tzadok, a faithful, righteous priesthood. And here's something beautiful. Yahuwah doesn't need human records to find those sons. He doesn't rely on archives or surnames. He doesn't need man's approval or oral tradition. He knows exactly who he appointed, and when the time comes, he will restore the priesthood in perfect righteousness, because that temple, it's not man's project, and it's Messiah's. And most importantly, it comes after his return. Not before, not through rebellion, not through rejection, but as part of his kingdom reign. That temple will be holy, set apart, filled with glory. So where does that leave us? It means we need to be sober, discerning, watchful, because not every temple is holy. Not every altar is righteous. Not every priest is chosen. The temple that's coming may look sacred. It may sound exciting, but it will not be kadosh, holy. It is not commanded, and it will not carry the presence of Yahuwah. Instead, it will become the stage for the greatest deception of the end times. But here's the good news. We, those who are in covenant with Yeshua, we are now the temple. We are living stones. We carry his spirit. Our high priest is seated at the right hand of the Father forever. So let's not run back to shadows when the light has already come. Let's not participate in something that appears holy, but denies the one who made us holy, because the true temple, the one we're waiting for, isn't being built with man-made hands. It will be established by the King Yeshua himself.